who will fight for your honor. I'll be the hero that you
like Crystal Nash. With a dream. Groo, before we get to Karate Kid 2, let's scale back to our last podcast. It was indeed the iconic first film that kicked it all off, The Karate Kid. We discussed in the following in regards to The Karate Kid, the origin of the source material, direction by John G. Avildsen. Oh wait, hold on. Oh wait,
what happened?
No, I'm
You're right.
messing up here. Casting and the numerous actors and actresses up for the key roles, the plot of that legendary iconic film, and critical and commercial reactions to the film. Groo, viewers were somewhat critical on both of our takes. So Andrew, it's been a long time, but let's do it. It's now time for Viewer Mail.
Letters. We got your letters. We got your letters every day. Mailman Ding Dong, give me a letter today.
Thank you, Groo, courtesy of the Nothing Worthwhile Facebook page that is found at www.facebook.com/nothingworthwhile1985. If you have a chance, take a look at it. A lot of fun. Let's get to it. Certain someone took umbrage to the research and my points about the Rocky and the Karate Kid having similar themes and even presentation. Quote, I'm also tired of the Rocky comparison. If there is, great, wonderful, but I do not watch the Karate Kid and think Rocky, not in the slightest. In my mind, it's cool that Conti and Avildsen are responsible for the movie. So, Groo, my point exactly, and so my question to you, Groo, would be, would it be completely wrong of me to say that there are similar themes and presentations of, let's say, Aliens and the Abyss, both James Cameron helmed movies? So,
sure.
You know, I mean, I think it's right there on the surface with Rocky and the Karate Kid. So I'll shoot it over to you, Groo. Let me get some final thoughts on the whole Kid Rocky comparison. I know you weren't so high on it on the last podcast.
Well, yeah, of course there's going to be a comparison because number one, it's the same type of story, underdog story that's been told a million times, plus the same director and same music. So you're going to get that kind of mood thing. But us saying that doesn't mean that when we watch it, we're thinking, oh, this is Rocky in a karate world. No, Rocky doesn't cross my mind because we're too engrossed in these characters. Like, you know, looking back on it, you can see the comparison. But I think whoever wrote that was thinking that we can't get past the Karate Kid without comparing it to Rocky. There is no comparison. It's apples and oranges. Similar themes, but completely different tones and completely different characters, and that's what tells these stories. Like, there's no Paulie in Karate Kid, and there's no Ali in Rocky. They're so completely different. So you
wouldn't make any kind of slight comparison. I'm just saying,
not
the Rocky Adrian. At least on the surface, there's a great romance there, and obviously, I did say on the last podcast, overall, you can't compare. You know, Rocky and Adrian were over the course of X number of films and much more.
But even in that first movie, the heart of the movie is Rocky and Adrian. That's where the soul and the heart and soul of the movie. That's what makes Rocky work better. It's two losers who become winners together in a way. Karate Kid isn't like that. Karate Kid is Daniel and Miyagi. Ali is a character in the movie, but she doesn't drive the narrative. Miyagi and Daniel do. And because it's a kid, it's just, they're so completely different. All we're doing is saying that it's the same type of story. It's like comparing, I could compare the Karate Kid and Rocky to Rudy. Or any underdog story, or Hoosiers, things like that. It's the same. Okay, it's the same.
I think the comparison is a little more apt because you have John, the Avildsen, which, by the way, I believe there's a documentary on YouTube about his work called "Rise of the Underdog." And again, I am not
Wasn't aware of that.
completely hands down familiar with all of his filmography, which Andy had mentioned on the last podcast he felt was very mixed, and that perhaps even he was a tad bit overrated. But there is a documentary. I didn't watch it, but I have seen ads for it in terms of and I guess, Avildsen perhaps movies in a sense focused on that, underdogish character. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
He did a movie called Power of One, which was, I've never seen it, but I'm aware of it. And I know that's like an underground boxing movie, I think. He did a movie I did see called 8 Seconds with the late Luke Perry, who played a rodeo.
Yes.
He played like a rodeo guy, which I didn't think it was a very good movie, but it's the same idea. Even Lean on Me a little bit with Morgan Freeman, that's an underdog story set in a high school about the education system. I mean, so Avildsen obviously likes that theme, but the comparison ends there. With all those.
Wasn't 8 Seconds the movie Luke Perry was tied to and he was unable to appear in Howard Stern's Private Parts? I believe Howard had referenced they had asked Luke Perry to appear.
I don't.
Hold on, hear me out.
All right, go ahead.
I don't know. Okay, because Howard had said on his show he had asked Luke to recreate the iconic MTV Fartman scene.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, Luke Perry presented Howard at the MTV Video Awards. And from what I understand, he was tied into this 8 Seconds filming and was unable to make it. And that's when he went with John Stamos.
It's possible. I thought 8 Seconds was a little before Private Parts, was like not in the, I think it was, I thought it was early 90s, but I could definitely, actually, no, you might be right, because Lean on Me and The Power of One, those two Avildsen movies were like 1989 and like 1991. So maybe 8 Seconds was towards, it's something that could easily be looked up. If it's released in 95, 96, 97, that's definitely a possibility. But I don't know for sure.
All right, Groo. On the topic, and I got a couple of notes myself, but I'll throw it to you. Mm-hmm. On the topic of whether or not Johnny is presented as a bully or a bad guy, or perhaps he's some type of redeemable character just losing his way. And I quote from our Facebook page, there are a few redeeming qualities about Johnny during the entire movie, except the very end when he gives Daniel a trophy. You hate him, typical school bully. And so I'm going to just say my piece. I'll throw it to my buddy Andy Groo. But again, I think we disagreed. I think if I remember correctly, Andy was a little more empathetic or perhaps sympathetic to Johnny. And my thing is perhaps today watching the movie, but I am not and will not buy into the argument that anyone of my generation, for the most part, watched Karate Kid at the age of 9, 10, 11, 12, and walked out of the theater and went, that Johnny, he was a decent guy, just a lost soul. Or perhaps Daniel just brought it on himself. I thought about it. I mean, to me, William Zabka that was every kid I feared in high school. He's good looking. He's ripped. He's a good athlete. He's handsome and he's a dick. And, he bullies people lesser than him. And, I'll throw it to Groo, but again, I'm actually doubling down. Now watching Karate Kid today in reference to Cobra Kai, that's something different. But my point was, when I was 12, leaving the theater, no, I hated Johnny, and I was all on Team Daniel, even when Daniel did shit that brought it on himself. Groo?
Yes, I agree with you actually, because I did think about it, and of course, and this is where I can compare it to Rocky, because when I see Rocky, when I saw Rocky when I was very young, and you ask me who's the bad guy in Rocky, you say Apollo. Apollo's the villain. Okay, to a little kid. But as you get older and you watch these things more closely and in depth and you're more aware of things, you see that it's not necessarily so black and white. So,
Mr.
yes.
Grithius, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Because I'm going to follow up. You made a great point.
Go ahead.
I was a young kid. I didn't like Apollo. I didn't hate him. I hated Johnny. Apollo didn't sucker punch Rocky. He was a little bit of an arrogant, if I remember correct, the Rocky presented him as an arrogant sort of heavyweight champion. He's going to pick a tomato can, hopefully get an easy defense in. But he was a family man, and he fought Rocky with honor. I mean, and again, I don't want to.
If we're only talking about,
I hated Johnny. Johnny was a bully. Johnny was a bad dude.
All right. Yes.
I rooted for Rocky to beat Apollo, but I didn't necessarily hate him. I certainly didn't want him to win, but I did not like Johnny.
Okay. Here's where I'm gonna leave this. Okay. Because when I was a kid, definitely hated Johnny. Definitely. Okay. As time went on, I began to look at Johnny a little bit differently. That he's still a dick, but looking at it differently as I got older. Before Cobra Kai, you see it might not be completely his fault. As you get older, but yes, I was 9 when I saw Karate Kid. I wanted Daniel to whip his ass and all those guys. But as you get older and you repeat viewings, you see that not everything is as it seems, and things are there, and you can find moments now where Johnny is not the biggest dick in the world in that movie. Small ones, but they're there. One of my favorite moments actually is kind of a funny one when Daniel, after he and Miyagi have gone to the dojo and they set the thing, and then Kreese tells his kids, you can't touch Daniel until the tournament. And then he's there with the Cobra guys in school, and he has the teacher just to fuck with them. He's like, and the guy's like, oh, I gotta go. Sorry. That made me laugh. And when the bad guy can make you laugh, in that way, you can sort of see that, all right, maybe it's worth looking at things from a different angle. But I compared Zabka's performance as Johnny to his performance in some of the other 80s bad guy roles, and this one is totally different. The Johnny character is much more layered, because if you look at his first scene, really all he's trying to do is talk to his girl, and there's and I know I'm going on long about this, but and this will be the last thing I say. There's a funny meme out there. I've been trying to find it since. The top picture is Daniel and Johnny looking at each other with the radio part. Remember? Mm-hmm. Okay. And Johnny's line is, "Why are you talking to my girl?" And Daniel's line is, "Oh, I didn't realize she was your girl. Sorry, dude. Go ahead." And then the picture below it is the closing credits to the movie. I laughed at that, and I thought it was funny because, it's like, this is a thing where, if somebody stepped in and say, all right, look, this is his girlfriend or his ex-girlfriend, Daniel, chill out. If I was Daniel's friend there and I knew that this guy was a badass karate guy and this was his girlfriend, I'd be like, yo, man, don't mess with that girl. Not now anyway. But nobody did that. So Daniel was on his own. And of course, we were in high school. When somebody looks at your girlfriend, you get jealous. But like I said, it comes with repeat viewings. So yes, if you're seeing Karate Kid for the first time, you absolutely hate Johnny. I give you that 100%. 100%. And you want him to get his ass kicked.
Andrew, you were specifically called out as well. You were not spared either on your critical comments of John Avildsen's Lean on Me. Quote from Stephen Gruthius, "I am deeply offended by the negative comments about Lean on Me. How dare you?" Andrew, please respond.
I don't remember what I said. I remember saying,
I believe you said,
I probably said it wasn't a great movie.
An enjoyable film, but you didn't like, I believe, the way it was shot or edited. And you said ultimately it's not a very good movie, though enjoyable.
Yes, it's technically, I stand by that. It's technically and fundamentally not a great movie. It twists things around in ways that really change what really happened in real life, because I remember when that was going on.
But doesn't that, don't they?
Yeah, but they went a little too far with this. There was no minimum basic skills test. There was no, that was all. That's a plot device. No, I'm serious. But
I'm joking.
Yes.
Because I'm saying,
yeah.
I probably would barely pass a minimum skills.
But it's saved by the performances, specifically Morgan Freeman and Robert Guillaume. who played like his friend. And the other guys, the characters, the kids, whoever played the young kid who played Thomas Sams, terrific. So that's an example of great casting, enlivening, not so great script and not so perfect direction. It's still a movie. There are movies that I absolutely love that are not well made. There's got to be a reason for me to love them, and that's one of them. I love Lean on Me. I've seen it 100 times, but I can also say it's not a great film, but it's a terrific movie.
Before we move on to the next topic, give us one movie you absolutely love, but you would admit not a great movie.
Okay, well, this is going to be
Saturday or Sunday viewing. Give us a choice.
Well, I'm going to say right now a movie that I absolutely love and I love to watch it, that I know is not a good film and not a good movie. Karate Kid Part 2.
Okay, let me just ask you one question, and don't say too much because we want to talk about this.
Okay.
You know it's not a good movie, and I'm not even saying specific to Kid 2, but what's the enjoyable part? Is it the storyline? Is it the acting? A little bit of the other pieces?
It's everything but the storyline. The storyline is so, well, we'll get into it, but it's everything but the storyline. Everything else is great, but the story is, to me, it's so absurd. But it's okay. So is Rocky IV. And I love Rocky IV is another example. I don't think Rocky IV is a great movie, but I love it. I love it.
Right, but you said Rocky IV was not a Rocky movie. Are you proclaiming Karate Kid 2 is not a Karate Kid?
No, because it's still got the same type of feel, the same tone, the same kind of themes. It really is and actually I really felt I watched it again last night just to prepare for this, and I really felt the continuity that it's got the same kind of music, the same kind of feel, the same, I don't know. It does seem like a part 2 instead of just Karate Kid 2. It's really Karate Kid Part 2. There is a difference.
All right. Hold those thoughts. I want to steer the ship because I want to break right into it because I'm hearing stuff that vibes with me when I watch the film, but let's hold it for a little bit later down the line. Groo, I was trashed again as they did like our discussion on the casting of the Karate Kid, but great stuff on casting. That was fun to listen to, but nothing like Evan Moody losing his patience with Andrew Groo. Although I felt a little whiny baby in his voice this time.
Me or you?
It has been angry and forceful in the past, but for some reason I sensed a very infantile approach to his impatience. So I would like to say to Stephen Gruthius, please put your ear close to the microphone and listen to me. Infantile this. Oh! Well, anyway, Groo.
Did he give any examples?
No, I love Steven. I love all of his comments.
Well, I'm going to see him. I'm going to see him later tonight. You want me to kick his ass?
No, but you could pin him down. I don't know what was infantile, but I try to really speak from the hip, and that's the great thing about a friendship. Sometimes we disagree, sometimes we argue, but
you speak from the hip, I speak from the colon. It's a very similar kind of thing.
And a mighty big hip and colon they are. Groo, we karate kicked off November programming focusing on the iconic Karate Kid franchise. So Groo, before we move on to New You time, final thoughts on the Karate Kid.
I left it all on the table. It's one of the best movies ever made. All in.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I did look.
Okay.
I mentioned this last time. It's in your top 10 of all time. It's not in mine, but it's knocking on the door.
Yeah, but my top 10 is. I'm no Roger Ebert, but
yes, the Karate Kid. Listen, for a movie that listen, I teach high school kids, 11th grade kids, and every single one of them has seen the Karate Kid, and that's a movie that came out in 1984. That is a great movie. A movie that can come out all the way back then, be a hit, be a critical darling back then, all thrust firing on all cylinders, and yet still be endearing to audiences today, younger audiences. That's a great movie that will last forever. And rightly so.
Well, on that high point, we'll leave Karate Kid.
Amen and hallelujah.
Look, Gru, it's time to use the drum technique as Nothing Worthwhile takes a look at the sequel of the iconic Karate Kid. Mm-hmm. It is Karate Kid 2. Karate Kid
Part 2.
Oh, excuse me, Karate Kid Part 2. Well, let's get to it, Gru. As Gru said, Karate Kid Part 2 was a 1986. Wow, think about that. 1986. We're going back already, 96 to, what?
It was 11. 34 years? Is it 34 years? Yeah.
Yeah. 1986 martial arts drama written by Robert Mark Kamen, directed again by John G. Avildsen, is the second installment of the Karate Kid franchise, starring Ralph Macchio and Pat Morita. Karate Kid 2 follows Daniel LaRusso, who accompanies his karate teacher. You know what I learned? I got to eat before this podcast, so I had breakfast at 10 o'clock because by the time we're done at 1:30, I'm dying.
I was literally, not to interrupt, but I was literally like recording like a little birthday video for a friend of mine who, his sister had asked me to record something. So literally I'm saying, happy birthday, how you doing? And literally just a huge belch just came right in the middle of it. And I just kept going. I was like, happy birthday. I think you're a great person. I hope you're, excuse me. I hope you're having a great time. And like, it just, hey, look, bodily functions. What can you do?
What can you do?
Yeah.
I've been there many a time. So LaRusso accompanies his karate teacher, Mr. Miyagi, to Okinawa to aid his dying father, only to encounter a group of bullies with long harboring grudges against Miyagi. Guru, before we get into the background of the movie, maybe this is I'm just off the top of my head, mindset as you put on Kid 2. Had you watched it in a long time? Were you looking forward to it? Don't give us, your thoughts on the movie, but, what did you, I don't know, just set the stage as we get to the movie. Your thoughts on Kid 2.
I knew I would enjoy watching it, and I did. I always enjoy watching these movies. Always. Oh, okay. Like you can't not, like, if you try to make me not enjoy it, it's impossible. Because they're so much fun. They really are. They really, the writer, Robert Mark Kamen, created a universe with the Karate Kid that was so perfectly cast and so perfectly made that you can never tire of these people. So you'll follow them anywhere.
You actually mentioned Robert Kamen, and I know you're quite the movie guy. Perhaps were there other big time movies or other big movies that he was involved with other than the Karate Kid?
Yes, and I'm not remembering any of them. I remember, and I'm annoyed with myself for not remembering, because I remember actually an interview with him talking about it, because he usually names his protagonist Daniel, and he was talking about other movies that I had seen that was the case, but I'm just completely drawing a blank right now on them. Guess we'll have to do some internet research, but
did Robert Kamen write the Elton John song, Daniel?
I don't think so. I believe that was Bernie Taupin.
Thank you. Okay. Well, Gru, preparations to film Kid 2 really started right after the success of the first film. So casting took place between May and July of '85, after they re-signed, of course, the two main leads, Macchio and Morita. Principal photography for the film began in September of '85 in Los Angeles. Filming was completed by December of 1985, which included locations such as Oahu, Hawaii, to replicate Okinawa. So principal photography again took place in Oahu, Hawaii, in the northeastern area of the island known as the Windward Side. The local countryside in modern-day Okinawa had been drastically changed due to the presence of military bases, so other locations in both Japan and Hawaii were scouted as alternative filming locations. Filmmaker selected a property in Oahu that was privately owned by a retired local physician who agreed to allow a portion of the land to be used in the film. So I'm assuming that local physician who owned the land in which they filmed on got paid out, I'm sure, pretty well.
They had to have. But I was actually disappointed. I didn't find that out until recently that wasn't actually Okinawa. That it was Hawaii.
Can you repeat that, Okinawa? I like the way you pronounce it.
Okinawa.
Yeah. So,
but wait, you'll enjoy this because I looked up Robert Mark Kamen, and there are some interesting titles here.
Go ahead.
You have, before The Karate Kid, he wrote a movie called Split Image, which you probably never heard of, but I'm a fan of it. It stars James Woods. What?
Of course.
What?
Of course, Andy knows some innocuous.
Well, it stars James Woods and Brian Dennehy. It's a movie about a kid, a teenager, who gets brainwashed by a religious cult, and I like movies about cults. I don't know why, but that kid in that movie, he's played by Michael O'Keefe from Caddyshack, and he's like he's an athlete, he's a gymnast, and he gets brainwashed. His name in the movie is Danny. I'm looking at some others. The movie Gladiator, not the Russell Crowe one, but Gladiator with Cuba Gooding Jr. and James Marshall and Brian Dennehy. Remember that movie about the underground boxing? Yeah. Not a great movie, but still, it's Lethal Weapon 3. He wrote the screenplay for. He wrote The Power of One, which was the John Avildsen movie. Let's see, A Walk in the Clouds. I never saw that. That's with Keanu Reeves. Fifth Element. He wrote. Bruce Willis. Kiss of the Dragon.
Interesting movie.
Yeah. Kiss of the Dragon, the Jet Li movie. He wrote The Transporter with Jason Statham. And I'm looking for more. He wrote Taken. Wow. Look at this. The Liam Neeson movie, Taken. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I enjoyed the first one.
So he wrote he wrote all three of them. Wow. I haven't heard from this guy in a while, but I guess he's just sort of under the radar. And his last credit here is Angel Has Fallen, which was just last year with Morgan Freeman. That's something. That's that's an impressive filmography right there for a writer. So
it reads to me beyond some of the more classic. It's like I hate to say it, cheesy action.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
Angel Has Fallen.
I didn't see it, but I know these movies are popular.
Yes. Yes. I want to just go back to Lethal Weapons. I'm a big fan of Letha Weapons, the adult film actress. Okay, I'll shut up. Move on. Speaking of
that's on here too. That's on here too.
Speaking of cults, I was actually in the cult called The Power of One. And Andy came and kidnapped me. I was in Wisconsin.
I did.
Andy kidnapped me. And
I did. Well, that's what I did for a living for about 3 months.
Let me ask you this, Groo. Taking the setting out of United States in Kid to Okinawa, without getting too much into your feelings of the film, any thoughts on taking the setting away from the U.S. into a foreign land?
Sure. It's actually on paper, it's a great idea because a lot of sequels suffer from just doing a repeat of the first movie. This story is completely different. It's in many ways from just from what you said. So knowing that he was going to the origin of where his particular brand of karate came from, without seeing the movie, it's like, wow, this could get interesting. The worst thing that they could have done was like, okay, now we got another bully, now we got another tournament, now we got another, same deal. No. I mean, it was once you get to Okinawa, it is kind of almost a similar story, except there's one huge difference, which I'll get to later. But I was excited about the idea of expanding, that. I thought it was a real cool idea.
Yeah, they reportedly Karate Kid 4. Daniel was backpacking in Europe and stayed at various.
Is that true?
Hostels.
Is that,
No,
I don't remember what they said. I know they make mention of them in the movie. I don't remember what it was.
Music-wise, Groo, the musical score for Karate Kid Part 2 was again composed by Bill Conti.
Stop it.
Who wrote the score for the... Oh, please.
It's
20 years ago, he would have laughed his ass off. He would have been like... He would have been doubled over. He couldn't even breathe. Now he's like...
Wait, say it again. Say it again.
Bill Conti.
All right, there you go.
That's better. Thank you. He wrote the score for the previous installment, which included the pan flute of Georgie Zamfir.
Yes. Zamfir.
Wasn't there like his greatest hits, like a 1-800 number commercial, like the pan flute from Zamfir?
Yes, and where everything kind of sounds the same, but it's still incredibly effective.
Groo's like, it's on my Apple Music right now.
No, it's not. No, it's not. But actually, there is one.
And I listen to.
I do every now and then like listening to the Karate Kid instrumental music. There's some really great stuff there. But Zamfir actually more recently did a great piece of music for the Kill Bill movies, which were
Zamfir.
Yeah.
Kill Bill was
I remember
good.
that. I remember,
That's
and
I
think the end song from Volume 1 was a really cool Zamfir track. So,
well, I'll tell you what, if you ever want to do Kill Bill, I'd be down for that as well. Enjoyed those.
Me too.
Movies.
I enjoy those.
The film's signature tune was, of course, as we miffed on earlier in the movie, Peter Cetera's song "Glory Hole of Love," which was a #1 hit in the United States and received an Academy Award nomination for Best Song. When Daniel and Miyagi are being driven by Chosen, the nephew, and we'll formally introduce Chosen in a little bit, and his crony Toshio, after they arrive in Okinawa, Chosen tunes into the radio of the car, and he reaches the station playing Fascination, the same song in which Ali and Johnny were slow dancing at the high-end country club in the original film. The soundtrack is notable as being the final album released by United Artists Records, which I found pretty cool trivia. That Karate Kid 2 was the last album released by United Artists Records, which I thought was pretty cool. Glory of Love, written by Peter Cetera. Rock and Roll Over You, The Moody Blues. Fish for Life, Man Crab.
Is Rock Around the Clock on there?
It is by Paul Rogers.
Yeah. Isn't that the guy from Bad Company?
That's great. Actually, I think that's great that you know that.
It's great. Well, remember, I did watch it last night, and they do play that song when they're in some, like, Okinawa nightclub. I almost said Japanese. Isn't that great of me?
Well, you'll like some of these last ones. Let Me Adam, Southside Johnny.
When was that?
This Is the Time, Dennis DeYoung. Earth Angel, of course.
Earth Angel, I remember. That's in the nightclub.
I've even heard of that. The Love Theme from Karate Kid 2, Bill Conti. Two Looking at One, Carly Simon, who actually I've come to appreciate. I've actually, as I've gotten a little older, dug into some of her music, and I enjoy Carly.
She's kind of good looking too.
She's kind of hot without being hot.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. She does fall in that Stephanie McMahonish.
Yes, she's not hot, but she's hot.
Yes. And then finally, The Storm by Bill Conti.
Every time you do that, I'm going to just...
Groo, you know that Bill Conti, born April 13th, 1942, an American composer and conductor, best known for his film scores including Rocky and its 4 sequels, The Karate Kid and all of its sequels. For your eyes only for you. We mentioned James Connery's death. So for your eyes only, the Bond film.
That was a Roger Moore
television,
film.
Okay. Well, then I. Good night. Let me just close my laptop.
We report, you decide. We got to report the facts.
That's true. Asshole. Me, I'm saying, not you. I throw in an extra line to look impressive, and it's completely wrong. And Screw's like,
you want to know? Actually, besides, I would say
actually you're completely wrong. Well, that was a Sheena Easton song. I know that.
Yes,
much.
it definitely was. But you want to know my favorite Bill? Now I can't say the
Go ahead,
Bill Conti song. My favorite Bill Conti song. My favorite Bill Conti score. Besides Rocky, Rocky is pure genius. Karate Kid is really good, but I would say a notch above is the movie. I don't know if it's on your list, but it's the Stallone Michael Caine soccer movie Victory. Is that on your list there?
Let me tell you, no. I got. He did the music for the television soap opera Dynasty. He filmed The Right Stuff, which he earned an Academy Award for Best Original Score.
It's a great score.
He also received nominations in the Best Original Song category for Gonna Fly Now from Rocky and the title song for Your Eyes Only. He's been the musical director for the Academy Awards a record 19 times.
Wow.
Bill Conti has also been nominated for 3 Academy Awards. Okay, so I mentioned that. He has had 3 Golden Globe nominations, Groo. 2 for the Best Original Score for Rocky and An Unmarried Woman.
What?
Oh, God. That sounds like a Richard Gere, Diane Lane.
It's like, May, December romance kind of thing.
In an act of rage, I killed her paramour. And then we dumped the body at the Oceanside dump. And then we both lived nervously with the secret under the ground.
And then the piano comes in.
Yeah.
Another great score, I don't know if it's on your list, is from the Stallone movie Lock Up.
I don't have that. He got Best Original Score, another nomination for Golden Globe for Your Eyes Only. He received 13 Emmy nominations, all but one for his role as a musical director at the Academy Awards. He had one that for the music for the 1985 series North and the South. I'm assuming that's probably some kind of Civil War.
It is North and South. That's with Patrick Swayze, I think.
Thank you, Groo. Of course, you really know. I did read on page 6 that would you say Patrick Swayze?
Was in North and South. Patrick Swayze.
Patrick Duffy.
No.
So Patrick Duffy is now dating
That's
Linda
Dallas.
Pearl.
Who?
Dallas and a Happy Days romance.
Wow.
Actually, I want to
is that a that's a network crossover there. That's like CBS to NBC, I think. Wow.
Yes,
I think.
Let's see here.
Is that legal?
I don't know at their age. That may not be.
No, I mean the network. The network that's Dallas to Happy Days. You know, that's they might be competitive there.
Reportedly, Duffy, if it doesn't work out, he's just going to say it was all a bad dream.
Hey-o! Hey-o!
He also won 5 Emmy Awards for Outstanding Musical Direction for the 64th, 70th, and 75th Academy Awards. So, Groo, I'll throw it to you. Any last thoughts on the musical direction of one Bill Conti?
Yeah, he's one of the best. He's definitely on the Mount Rushmore of film composers. I think he's up there with like James Horner, the late James Horner, probably John Williams and Ennio Morricone. An argument could be made for a guy like Bernard Herrmann or Jerry Goldsmith, guys like that. But Bill Conti, if you look at him, if you look at that, I mean, like you said, you mentioned all the nominations, and I gave you three movies that I think are incredible scores that aren't even mentioned. So he's one of the greats of all time by a long shot. I mentioned the scores for Victory, Escape to Victory. It's called overseas, but here it's just called Victory. It's a rousing score. I'll bet if I played it for you, you'd recognize it. The score for the prison movie Lock Up with Stallone is a great score. He can't see, he's a guy who can't fail, and he can do anything. Yeah, definitely on the Mount Rushmore. Absolute legend.
Listen, you got to appreciate when a guy on a podcast gives you his Mount Rushmore of musical score directors. I mean,
you know what? It's a great way to.
Well, I'm kind of working into a joke, but I didn't recognize any one of those names except like Jerry Gold, I think the Jews I recognize pretty much,
Okay, fine. You want to play a game here?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know too much.
Okay.
No, I am saying appreciatively that's your level of film knowledge is very impressive.
No, but I want to see if you
I know
can.
John Williams. I know
Right.
John Williams. I know Jerry Goldsmith. I've heard that name bandied about before.
Ennio Morricone is the guy who did like Once Upon a Time in America, Once Upon a Time in the West, like a lot of those Sergio Leone movies. He does, he recently passed away, but he did a lot of Warren Beatty movies. Did Bulworth, Love Affair. Like he did a lot of those ones, but he goes back to like the 1940s. Bernard Herrmann is like Psycho. A Taxi Driver scores like that.
See, Bernard Herrmann, I thought was my dentist. In
No, that would be Dr. Jerry Goldsmith, who also did the scores for like a multitude of Star Trek movies and the first 3 Rambo films. He died before the fourth one, but another composer used his themes for the 2 Rambo sequels, so he's definitely up there. So these people, you just don't know you know them. That's the thing. That's what's cool about the movies, though. Like, there are so many behind-the-scenes people who their work, you just don't know their names. So
I will let you know if it's a Saturday night I'm trying to get romantic with Marie. I usually put on the love theme from An Unmarried Women 2.
There was a sequel? I didn't know there was a sequel.
It was straight to television. It was Linda Pearl.
Well, if you want to get romantic, I say put on one of the best scores of all time from the best movie for romance, The Shining. Work that into your playlist.
Okay, I will. I'll give that. I will report back next weekend. Probably blood.
Hello, Evan. Come and play with me.
Yes.
Forever and ever and ever.
Nothing sets the mood when I walk into the bedroom and I see, in a blood on the mirror, red rum. I rip my clothes off.
That's hot.
Yeah. All right, let's get this train back on track, everybody. Let's go over the casting. Ralph Macchio as Daniel LaRusso, Pat Morita as Mr. Miyagi, Nobu McCarthy as Yuki.
I can name. Wait. Can I show off a little bit here?
Well, okay, I'll give you 3. Who played Kamiko?
That was Tamlin Tomita.
I mean, come on. Are you looking at something?
No, I'm looking right at you. I've seen the movie 1,000 times.
Me looking at you.
No, all right. Keep going. All
right. Who played Chosen?
Izumo Yoko Yamaguchi. Tomo. No, wait. Oh shit! They've been mentioning his name. I'm drawing a blank. I know it. Chosen was played by. He was. I'm drawing a blank on the name. Tell me.
Yuki Okamoto.
Ojimoto. Yuki Ojimoto. Yes. And can you name another movie that he was in that you've definitely seen that we like?
I know he's been in other ones. Was he in 16 Candles?
No, you'd think that he wasn't Long Duck Dong. That was.
No, I know he wasn't Long Duck Dong. I know I've seen him before.
He was.
I'll talk about his cast.
I can only name one, but it's a great one. He was in the movie Better Off Dead. Do you remember that movie?
I knew it was a comedy, though.
But do you remember that movie at all?
Yes, he was the guy who squared off with John Cusack at a red light.
Yep, that was him.
I believe he was the
voice of Howard Cosell. Yeah, thank God you do that. Yeah, yep.
God, they just don't make dumb.
I know.
Really well made dumb movies like that anymore.
Well, you know why? Because if you look at that, even though his voice was dubbed, he's still, as an actor, he's selling it. Like, he's really, like, he believes in this thing. Everything nowadays has to be like winking at the audience, winking at the camera, breaking the fourth wall. Like, just going over the top and just being so, just so out there with the humor, like reaching out from the screen saying, laugh now, motherfuckers. Like, here it's just.
I just think movies like that would get the cancel culture. Oh, you're making fun of an Asian guy, or
You're right.
He's suicidal. We can't make fun of mental illness, and they take
You're absolutely right.
funny and they just expand it over.
You are absolutely right. And even though, even though that character in Better Off Dead has literally nothing to do with Asian descent, he's doing Howard Cosell's voice. It wouldn't matter who it was, but he seemed to be the right actor for it because he sold the hell out of it. He was great. He's hilarious.
You don't think that there's some
of course there is
element to an Asian guy doing a Howard Cosell impersonation?
Yeah, I'll give you that, but you also have to have the right guy or the right girl, whoever it is.
I'm telling you, if Andy and I went to that movie and saw it together, we'd both be double over laughing.
Of
popcorn.
course.
But now on the podcast, he's like, okay.
No, wait a minute. No, I agree with you. I agree with you 1,000%. I think it's 100% bullshit that you can't do those kinds of things anymore, even if they're in perfectly good fun. They're not meant to be offensive. They're meant to be funny. And Bobcat Goldthwait said something a long time ago. I can't believe I'm quoting Bobcat Goldthwait, but remember that whole thing with Whoopi Goldberg and Ted Danson,
yes.
with the Friars Club roast?
Yes.
And everybody was being interviewed about it literally the TV shows were getting every comic persona in the world to talk about this, and they were all condemning it, and even Goldthwait did, but he said it's not that it was racist. He says it's offensive because it wasn't funny. He said the number one rule of comedy is if it's funny, it's not offensive or it's not racist. And I think I agree with that. I really do. I don't, because when I see that guy doing the Howard Cosell accent, I don't say, oh, look at the Asian guy being made fun of doing Howard Cosell. No, I say, this is a funny joke right here. This is a funny moment that has nothing to do with the plot. Why are we talking about Better Off Dead? This is my fault, but it has nothing to do with the plot, but it's funny anyway. And yes, you're right. They can't do that today without some interest group jumping up and saying no. Like, chill the hell out. It's not hurting anybody.
Groo, who played Sato?
Danny Kamakona. Yeah.
I want to ask you a question. Was Danny Kamakona did he play the bad guy in Black Rain? The Michael Douglas?
No, I know who you're talking about. That wasn't him. There's only one other thing that I remember. You're going to hate me for this, but there's only one other movie that I remember ever seeing this guy in, which is too bad because he was terrific in Karate Kid Part 2. He played a travel agent in Gidget's Summer Reunion, which was a TV movie, which was one of those so bad it was great. I have it somewhere. It's just it's just some of these movies just take me back to my childhood. But an interesting thing, like Pat Morita, Danny Kamakona is he's got a full on American accent. Like that's a complete. His accent in the movie is a complete acting job. Like Pat Morita, they sound like they're from California in real life. Both of them, but they're both gone now. They're Danny Kamakona, I think, died in the late 90s.
Do you think that was there ever, again, this is not to get into this whole cancel culture kind of thing, but was there ever criticism that the Karate Kid movies took like Americanized Asian actors, so to speak? I mean, Pat Morita was also a guy I think that had to put on more of a heavy Asian accent. I mean, I don't know. I'm just, you're mentioning Danny. I'm thinking that, these are guys that were probably well ingrained, quote unquote, American actors, American roles. And then,
well, from what I understand, and you mentioned it in the last podcast, they originally wanted to go with, but he was going to do it. I don't think he spoke enough English, or it was going to be too, and just Pat Morita just blew them away by, because they were afraid to cast Pat Morita because he was known as an American comedy actor.
Yeah.
But he was so convincing as the character, and he was nominated for an Oscar for it, for the first one. So nowadays, yes, you'd hear it. Because nowadays, like I know you're a Family Guy watcher. Okay?
Right.
And it really bothers me, even though I don't think the new episodes are on yet.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Right. I'm going to say. Go ahead.
Predict it?
Yep. Go.
Are you going to say, and this is not only the Family Guy, you saying that cartoons now, and hopefully I'm going to hit the right note here. If you have an actor who's playing a voice actor doing another character, meaning a white actor doing a African American actor, or a white actor doing an Asian, that they've thrown that out the window. Even like The Simpsons.
Yep.
Are you referring to that kind of stuff? Like Abu?
Exactly.
No longer.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mike Henry, the voice of Cleveland, who has been the voice of Cleveland for all 20 years that the show's been on the air. All of a sudden he can't do it anymore because it's a black character and he's not black. Like come on. It's comedy. It's funny. It's not hurting anybody. I mean, look, not to get political, but we're sitting at a time when we're allowing people to destroy each other on social media and all these things, and even in the streets, these racism things that people are allowed to say for real and get away with. Yet we're going to shut down fiction because that's offensive. The fake stuff is offensive, but the real stuff is okay. What's the matter with people? I mean, look at it that way. If the Karate Kid was made today with the same actors, let's say, let's say Cobra Kai, let's say Pat Morita was still alive. Okay? He could get away with it because he invented the character of Miyagi. But if it were a new actor, they wouldn't be able to do that because it would be considered a stereotype.
Yeah.
And that's what you know what the biggest crime of all is with all of that? It keeps us from really getting to the truth. And that's
what are you talking about here?
What?
What do you
I don't know. That was a Jim Carrey quote from Inside the Actors Studio. I thought it was good. I thought it was good enough. But yeah, it does, like you said, it does bother me. So that's why it's fun to go back and look at these things that can no longer be done. You could name so many. Bad News Bears is one of, things like that. But look, times change. There were things that you could do in the 1930s that you couldn't on film that you couldn't do in the 1970s. So things are always changing. You have to accept it, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Gruthius. We get
You're
a
welcome.
Martin Kove and William Zabka appearance, reprising their roles as John Kreese and Johnny Lawrence.
Sort of.
So, as stated earlier, the plot of Karate Kid 2 takes place shortly after the All Valley Karate Tournament. We get sort of a recap of sort at the very beginning of the movie, which again, I hate to say it, is a little Rocky-like. Doesn't Rocky typically start off with a recap of the?
They don't really. Rocky didn't really recap. He just showed the end of the previous fight. That became that device. That device worked a lot better in the Rocky movies than it did here. But are we starting to criticize a little bit at this point?
Well, I'm going to get to the plot, if you will.
Well, because I do have something to say about the flashback.
Go ahead.
All right. So when I was watching last night, I was laughing because it felt like, all right, it really felt like an episode of like Dallas, where it's like last time on Dallas, and they show you all the relevant things that you need to know to understand what's going to happen in this episode here. So that's what it seemed like. So going through all the scenes that they were showing, the specific scenes that they were showing in the flashback, they were all relative to the plot of Karate Kid 2. It wasn't like they were just going through the entire first movie just to say, look, this is where we've been, and now welcome to the new show. This was like they show a bunch of things about Miyagi talking about his father. And as we know, Karate Kid 2 is very heavy on that plot device. Is Miyagi's father, the origin of his karate. They have a couple of those scenes from the first one. So they were very specific in what they chose to put in that flashback. So it did make me laugh. It was like next time, it's like last on Dallas. Now here we go with this one. So it was like, I didn't understand. I guess I understand why they did it, because they needed to remind the audience of some of the smaller moments from the first one that connect to the second one, because the main plot of the first one has nothing to do with the second one. The main plot of the first one is Daniel versus Johnny. Well, that's got nothing to do with anything here. Just like, well, we'll talk about it when we do Karate Kid 3, because that flashback is much different than the one for this one.
All right, stay on topic. Stay on.
All right, so I didn't think it was necessary. Everybody who goes to see Karate Kid 2 knows exactly what happened. I don't know.
I was going to say, so do you feel they kind of sell the audience short here a little bit?
I think so. With Rocky, it sort of it sets the mood, I think. With Rocky, it sort of, gets the crowd cheering right away, because they're just showing the previous fight. So they're entering this world like, with the blood pumping. That's not the purpose of the flashback here. And I think, yes, it does sell the audience short a little bit.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
Welcome.
Sensei John Kreese becomes furious with Johnny Lawrence for his defeat and attacks him in the parking lot. Miyagi confronts Kreese and immobilizes him. Miyagi threatens to strike a deadly blow, but instead he honks Kreese's nose and walks away. Johnny and his friends abandon Cobra Kai after seeing Kreese's true colors. Beyond the whole flashback, what did you think of that opening scene where it basically starts right after the All Valley Karate Tournament? Little hokey, on point.
Yes.
Because I kind of wrote myself little hokey, just hokey.
I'm not a fan of it, because it seems like it was just tagged on there at the last minute, because again, that scene has nothing to do with Karate Kid Part 2. And it's interesting that scene was filmed for Part 1. It was filmed it was supposed to be in the script. It was part of the ending to the first one. But they didn't use it, and they decided to use it in this one. So it wasn't like they were bringing the Cobra Kai back to film this scene. It had already been filmed, and they just decided to throw it on the beginning of Karate Kid 2. So it literally begins minutes after the final match. And not necessary. And then it's got like a 5-minute scene. You see Kreese and Miyagi go at it, which is definitely, when you're seeing it in the movies, definitely a crowd pleaser. Seeing Kreese get his just desserts, his knuckles bleeding and punching, but definitely cool, but so unnecessary and so overacted. Like, it just, something doesn't click with it. And like I said, unnecessary, because they walk away. He does the little thing with the honk on the nose. Then Daniel and Miyagi walk away, and then next thing you know, it's 6 months later. So why did we just go through that if it's got nothing to do with anything?
Okay, 2 points. Number one, does it set up the whole technique of karate, the crane technique, which sort of he uses, he ducks Kreese's punches, he does that. That's one thing I thought of. And the other thing is, I agree with you, overacted. Like, even back then, we know Kreese is an asshole, but is a karate teacher literally going to, in public, strike their teen student? I mean, I felt like it was a little bit much, so over the top that it's, and we know Kreese is not a likable guy, but I just, that's really, you're talking about literally child abuse there.
A crazy one might, but again, as far as the movies are concerned, it's of no consequence. I mean, what,
leave me alone.
What do you mean? I'm agreeing with you.
Why me? No,
it's of no consequence. There's a good reason they left it out of Karate Kid 1, because it didn't matter anymore. Daniel won. It's over. Johnny got a little bit of redemption. Now we could walk away happy. It's got nothing to do with Karate Kid 2. So there's nothing, I think it's again pandering to the audience. You know, I really do believe that. The movie works without it. You know?
So as Andrew mentioned, 6 months later, Daniel LaRusso, we fast forward, he visits Miyagi's house after attending a senior prom in his baby blue tux. And he angrily explains that his girlfriend Allie has dumped him for a football player from UCLA. And Daniel's mother has received a business opportunity in Fresno where he's forced to spend his entire summer with her. Miyagi tells Daniel that he spoke to his mother and she's agreed to let Daniel stay with him. Miyagi receives a letter notifying him that his father is ill and he's going to plan to return to his home village in Okinawa Island and brings Daniel along with him after Daniel begs to come along. So right here, Groo, Miss LaRusso and Allie are written out of the movie. You know, I almost got like an Alien spot, Alien 3, you know,
Newt
Don is
Bishop.
Newt, I mean, like, watching it again, you know, I watched it this morning and I was like, wow, like just that quick, you've cut out two really main characters. And I'm not saying not to do it, but I would have liked, especially, forget Allie actually, the mother, you know, all of a sudden she's just, you know, she's got a promotion in another city and off she goes and she's like, you know, here, Miyagi, take care of my kid. Let me throw it to my partner, Andy Groo.
Oh, you want
on that?
Yeah. I was going to say.
What are your thoughts?
I agree 100% with you. And I was like, as you were saying that, all of that, I was like, think of how much plot exposition is in this one scene. You get rid of Allie. You get rid of the mom. Daniel's all pissed off. He's gotta, you know, he's gotta work on his aggression. The letter comes in from Okinawa. All this is happening within 4 minutes. And I guess, look, I don't think it was a money thing that Elizabeth Shue wasn't a part of it. If they were going to Okinawa, they needed a new love interest for Daniel.
Agreed.
So, fine. The way that they did it was pretty flimsy. And yet, it's bad, but I still like it. I don't know why. It's hard to describe because I've seen it so many times and I'm so used to it. I wouldn't really want it to be done any other way. You know what I mean?
So here's my question to you.
Mm-hmm.
Would it have been more satisfying as a movie viewer for you to see a scene where perhaps he sits with his mom and his mom says, you know, I'm going to Fresno. I've been thinking about this. How would you like to live with Miyagi? Or would it have been more satisfying to have seen a scene from the prom where Daniel perhaps confronts Allie or there's some kind of, I'm just curious, would that have added any layers to you as a viewer or kind of like what you said, you know what, leave well enough alone. You've done it. Let's get to the next plot line of this movie.
I would have loved it.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, because
you just said you felt like it didn't, you know, like you were okay with it.
No, I would say start karate, get rid of the flashback, get rid of that scene with Johnny and Kreese, and fill it with, don't tell us what's going on, show us. Open the movie at the prom. Let them break up in the very first scene. Then have him go home and he's all pissed off and then his mom tells him they're going to Fresno, so his life is falling apart. And then he drives over to Miyagi's and says, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, and this sucks. And then Miyagi, like he always does, solves every problem Daniel has within 30 seconds. That would have been great. That would have been great to see this stuff happening to Daniel. He just won he had the best night of his life. He just won the tournament. And then 6 months later, he's down in the dumps again. So he needs a new adventure. Show us that. Don't just tell us that.
Which would have been perhaps interesting as a viewer, because as I'm listening to your comments, I'm thinking he's won the All Valley Karate Tournament, and I guess your expectation is as a viewer, shit, he just won this guy is the balls right now. And 6 months later, you see that, you know, things didn't really work out. So
he's still hanging out with an old man.
Well, and you know, perhaps the love life.
And he's still got no friends.
The love life is askew.
Yeah.
His home life is in chaos. Maybe that would have been interesting. And the message to the viewer, I mean, you've reached your ultimate goal, perhaps, and perhaps there's still other hills to climb.
Yeah. Why do we need to take 4 minutes of credits to see what we've already seen? You know, when there's more, when they could be doing more to bring us into what's going on now.
So my last question to you before we move on to the further plot would be, do you think that's just a dearth of material that, hey, we want to round out the running time, so let's take a cut scene from scene one and kind of supplant it? Because I've always said montages, movies that over a montage, perhaps they just don't have a lot of meat. They don't have a lot of stuff there. Could that have been just a lack of source material?
I don't think so, because the source material's there. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to come up, no disrespect to you, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to come up with ideas like that to say, all right, where is Daniel now? What is the issue with him? There's got to be a problem. Okay, let's make up some problems. All right, he gets dumped by Allie. Well, let's show that. Okay? Well, better to show it than to tell it. His mom's going to Fresno, so let's show it. But then maybe they go to the producers and say, you know what, we're not going to hire Elizabeth Shue, who was a bona fide star by then, for a 2-minute scene, 2-minute cameo, which she'll probably charge $500,000 for. Why do we need to go get the woman who played the mom? Her name's Randy Heller. She was a very accomplished television actress. So why do we need to go pay her for 30 seconds, even though they do just that in Karate Kid 3, but we'll get to that later. They probably said, why spend the money if we don't have to? Karate Kid 2 definitely isn't a cheaply made movie. It looks good, but I could definitely see them saying, you know what, why spend the money to do that if we really don't have to? We could take care of this in a couple lines of dialogue. I just don't like when movies do that. But I'm sort of looking at Karate Kid 2 through the eyes of the one who's seen it so many times. And, I know it sounds like I don't like the movie because I love the movie. But that doesn't mean I can't be critical of it,
Okay, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Good points, Groo. Let's move on. Miyagi explains that he fell in love with a woman named Yuki. Funny enough, I once
Yukie.
Yukie. I once dated a girl on J-Date named Yukie. It was pretty wild.
Maybe it was the same one.
We went to Lester's.
There's one other thing. That actress, her name's Nobu McCarthy. I know I'm sounding like the snob that I am, but there's one other role that just like the other guy, there's one other role I remember her in.
The Power of
No,
Two.
you won't know. It's not a movie. She was in an episode of Different Strokes.
Stop it. Stop it. Why don't you start a podcast called Inane Trivia with Andy Groo? It'll be 3 minutes. Hey, everybody, you want to hear something?
Yahoo!
Actually, I'd like to do, I want to do an episode on Different Strokes for our podcast, the very special where he
the bicycle guy.
The bicycle guy.
The bicycle guy.
Gordon
Jump from WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
That didn't ruin his career.
Let's go to Yukie. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it. Oh, for Christ's sake. Yukie, who was arranged to marry his best friend Sato, son of the richest man in the village and fellow karate student of his father. Upon announcing his intentions to marry Yukie, Sato challenged Miyagi to a fight to the death to save his honor. Rather than a fight, however, Miyagi left the country. Miyagi explains to Daniel that Sato is still holding a grudge against Miyagi because there is no time limit for a man's honor. And then this Sunday, there's a no time limit match for the WWE. I love that Miyagi.
Wait, is this Sunday Survivor Series?
No. I believe it's in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
I love that Miyagi tells Daniel that if he was to fight Sato, the winner would have to be the one not dead.
Yeah, one who dead doesn't.
In Okinawa, Miyagi and Daniel are greeted by Chosen Taguchi, who takes them to meet Sato and reveals that he is Sato's nephew. Again, Yuji Okamoto as Chosen Taguchi. So here's so I'll take a pause before I throw it to you, Groo. One thing I would like to say is Chosen this kid is perfectly cast because to me, he's an Asian. I wrote in my note, he's an Asian version of Johnny. He's another one of these good looking. He's ripped as hell in this movie. Handsome guy. He's another one of these guys.
Evil as hell.
What's that?
Evil as hell.
Yeah, but it's just another one of those bully types. I think a lot of guys like you and I have dealt with where he's athletic, he's talented, he's good looking, he seems to have it all, but he's a creep. So I'll take a pause. What do you think of the plot?
And the girls love him anyway.
Yes.
Well,
of the plot points so far, Miyagi, Sato, and fighting to the death.
All right. It's so over the top ridiculous. Like, remember how I talked about Armageddon, how ridiculous it was? But it was so much fun to watch.
Are you going to tell the viewer that somehow it's so over the top ridiculous that I loved it?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. Because, let's think about it. All right. Daniel thinks he's got to go to Fresno with his mom. Then his mom works it out so he could stay at Mr. Miyagi's house. Then within 24 hours, he's on a plane to Okinawa, with this old man who he's been hanging with, which is so creepy. And if you look at it on paper, and he's going to Okinawa, and literally as they step off the plane, it's like if I'm Miyagi right there, I'm like, you know what? Let's get the fuck out of here. This is not going to end up well. This is not going to end well, because right away, Sato sends his nephew, and even when they're in the car, like you made mention where he puts the radio on and it's playing that song that Johnny was dancing the alley with in the first one. Is that an Easter egg or is that supposed to rile up Daniel? Like, what's going on here? Like, are we supposed to, and they do the thing with the handshake, he's like, you karate student, huh? And then why are we picking fights already? Like, what's going, like, it's so stupid. Yeah, but yet it works.
I just sat on a transatlantic flight for 21 hours. I walk off crisp as can be.
Yes, that's another thing. Have you we walk off planes after an hour and a half flight to Charlotte, and we're like, oh Jesus Christ!
I know, but it's funny. You're right, because they just been on this plane, and then literally they get picked up and challenged immediately.
Yes,
it's not even a breath. Not even like, hey, let's look at this
and something else I noticed last night. Like, let me ask you something, okay? Without saying anything about the movie. Let's say you and I were on a flight together, okay? And there's a row of 3 seats, okay? But there's only 2 of us. There's nobody. We have the first 2 seats. We have the window in the middle, and the aisle is empty. Is one of us going to sit in that aisle seat and leave that seat in between us empty to have more room for us?
Yes.
Damn right. They don't do that. They're like sitting on top of each other, even though there's nobody in the aisle seat. Like Miyagi's sitting there like comfortable under the blanket. Daniel's reading his Okinawa book, and they're literally scrunched right next to each other while there's this empty seat. Now one could argue maybe the guy went up to go to the bathroom or something, but like it just, like when you watch movies for the 100th time, you pick up on little things like that you might change. To me, that's a directing thing, and that's Avildsen,
Well, clearly, you're referring to the disgusting past history of pedophilia in Hollywood.
Well,
I'm joking.
It's just weird. It's just joking. Weird. And when
I'm just joking. As you were commenting,
yeah, you want things to be real, because otherwise, if they're so over the top, out beyond belief, it gets in the way of what you want to take from the movie. And, I know you're going to get to it, but this movie was not well received critically.
Well, is it true, Groo, that one of the deleted scenes, Daniel was like, hey, Miyagi, I think I'm going to move over to the aisle. And he was like, no, Daniel-san, stay close.
No, the one I saw was like,
hip to hip.
No, I was like, Daniel woke up. He said, why did you kiss my hand? And Miyagi says, where's your other hand? Between 2 pillows.
Bang, bang, bang goes the
Clay goes the That's great.
Well, Sato squares off with Miyagi and demands to fight him, who adamantly refuses. And of course, Daniel says to Miyagi, "What will you do about Sato?" And Miyagi replies, "Nothing. Nothing worthwhile." Nothing. He just says,
oh wait, where's my rim shot? Where's my rim shot?
They arrive at the village, they arrive at the village, which is now apparently adjacent to an American military base. Any political comments on American imperialism there with the whole military?
No, because that's actually very accurate. That's actually very accurate. There are a lot of Marines that I know, even today, former students of mine who've gotten stationed in Okinawa. Some friends of mine who went to the Marines after high school have been stationed in Okinawa. Okinawa is a major American military base, so that's actually pretty factual, and I like that. That's good detail right there.
Thank you, Andrew.
But wait, you skipped over the part. I think you skipped over the like he's reading the book about Okinawa.
I'm not going through everything piece by piece.
Okay, all right. I'm just saying it's all adding up to wonderful nonsense.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
I remember the scene with the book.
Yeah.
I mean, are you saying, are they layering it a bit thick here?
Yes, they're really pandering to the audience. They're like, even like it shouldn't have been so easy for him to just hop on the plane to Okinawa. Like you want to see the struggle a little bit. You want to see you just want to see more. But it looked like they were just trying to get to Okinawa as fast as they can. Logic be damned.
Another deleted scene grew on the flight. Instead of
did they join the Mile High Club?
No, instead of coffee and peanuts as the snack, it was sake.
Oh no! Here we go.
Sushi rolls.
Oh boy! Oh god!
Don't lie. You wrote that and you messaged me. No. All right. Well, Miyagi and Daniel are now welcomed by Yuki. I don't even know.
Yuki. Oh, stop! You're gonna get us in so much trouble.
and her niece, Kumiko.
She's beautiful.
That well, actually, you're absolutely right. I'll take a pause and I want to follow up with that comment because watching this movie, 86, we're going back a time, and I haven't seen what she looks like today, and I don't care to. But
you will.
I mean, that actress is absolutely stunning in this movie. And she does embody, similar to Allie in the Elizabeth Shute character, just a very wholesome teen on the verge of womanhood. She's just stunningly beautiful in this movie.
Yes. Oh, actually, one of the things I really like about Allie is that she kind of was already a woman in a lot of ways. This one definitely is more like you described, but she's stunning. She really is. She lights up the screen when she's on it. She's a good actress too. She does a really good job with what I consider to be a complicated plot. But it's funny because like you mentioned how like
Andy,
Sato
keep on talking. I'm rubbing my belly.
You mentioned how like Sato and Miyagi face off, and then Chosen and Daniel, for no reason whatsoever, are getting into it.
Chosen is like a complete douche for no reason.
That's what I meant. I meant he's got no beef with Daniel. Daniel actually says at some point in the movie, he's like, "Listen, whatever Mr. Miyagi and your uncle's problems are, they don't have to be ours." That's what I wanted to like jump through the screen and say like the moment they met. All right, listen. You're on this side, you're on this side, but you don't, like, you guys can chill. You guys can hang out. There's nothing wrong with that. This is, but like, it's like the Three's Company kind of thing. It's like, if only someone would just explain to everybody what's going on here, we'll be okay. Right. But look, you need you need a story to tell, so I understand. But if you notice, like one thing I really noticed last night for the first time as I was watching, how often I would stick my hands down. No, not that. I noticed, this is not Daniel's movie. This is Miyagi's story. And I like that. The first movie is Daniel's story. This one is Miyagi's story. This is about Miyagi's family history, Miyagi's fight, Miyagi's sort of like Sins of the Father. It's like Miyagi and Sato's thing is trickling down to his student. So and that's kind of what I like about it. That's what I mean by that difference between the first one and second one. You know, this is Miyagi's story. Do you see it that way or not?
I wish you would have held that for the end, but
okay.
Now that you mentioned it, I see where you're coming from. Watching it, I didn't feel that way, but I definitely see that there's a point to your comment.
Well, the reason that...
Now, what I did say, if you give me 1 second, what I did say on my notes at the end was Pat Morita is stunning in this movie. I mean, he's really... His acting is much deeper in this movie, because in the first movie, he's basically the wise old sage. Here, he has tragedy. He has triumph.
And Daniel kind of helps him along. But let me ask you this. Because this is what I felt at last night. Are you more interested in the chosen Daniel dynamic or the Miyagi-Sato dynamic?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, obviously, probably even when I saw it as a kid, ultimately we know that Daniel's going to square off against Chosen. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I'm not going to lie. I see where you go. I mean, definitely there's a lot more there with the Sato Miyagi. There's history and lore, but nobody wants to see two old geezers, two old guys duke it out.
Who at the time were basically maybe 4 or 5 years older than we are now, just to throw that out there.
What? Well, are you?
They were not old.
Okay, how old was Pat Morita when he filmed Kid 2? I'm curious.
Pat Morita
50. Are you telling me he was 54?
He was in he died in the mid to late 2000s, in his early 70s. I think his early 70s. That would make him in his early 50s at that time.
Well, then clearly New You Life Center is...
But yeah, knew you. But my answer to that question is I was riveted by the Miyagi-Sato stuff. The Chosen Daniel stuff was fun to watch, but it wasn't riveting because there was nothing behind it. It was manufactured. It wasn't organic. Okay. It was a manufactured thing. Like Daniel and Johnny was organic. That thing built. Okay? This was like they were in Okinawa for 2 days. All of a sudden they're ready to kill each other in front of the whole town. You know, like, so the story behind, like we're giving stuff away, but they're talking. Okay, all right. I'm not going to go there.
Let me take you along. Let's get to the plot.
Go ahead.
We'll sprinkle it with.
Yes, we should. After an hour and a half, we should start this podcast. So let's go.
Yes. Sato has become a rich industrialist whose super trawlers have destroyed the local fish population, impoverishing the villagers. They're forced to rent property from Sato, who owns the village land's title. Yu-Gi-Oh reveals that she never married Sato because of her love.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, it's the cartoon. Yu-Gi-Oh! Reveals that she never married Sato because of her love for Miyagi. After Miyagi's father dies, I love the touching scene where the father forces their two hands to like fist pump, you know. Please, my sons.
Did they invent the fist pump?
Probably, and there was no COVID back in that day. Sato gives him 3 days to mourn out of respect because of I'm giving you 3 days, mother effer.
For my teacher.
And then we're going at it. And yes, I think there was that scene that actually you mentioned, because after Miyagi's father dies, there is a good scene where Daniel comforts Miyagi and actually gives him advice. I believe Daniel tells Miyagi about when his father died.
Yes.
Actually, to me, that was a scene. That was a well done scene.
That's my favorite scene in the movie.
All right. Well, then, let's take us up to that point. Miyagi's father dies. He's got 3 days to mourn. Thoughts on so far, Grooey?
Well, this is where you get emotional stuff and you get deeper, and the performances of the actors and the way it's played out, including Sato, including Yukie, including all of these people, the job that they're doing kind of drowns out how ridiculous it all is. And that's a good thing. And leading up to that scene, Miyagi doesn't say a word. It's all Daniel. And it's the best acting either of those two have done in their careers, in my opinion. That one scene. Even though Miyagi doesn't say anything, he just sits there and it's great. It's great acting on both of their parts, and it's the best thing. It's the best moment that Machio's ever had. You know, when I watched that last night, I was like, wow, look at him telling this story. He's literally looking up and he's having trouble getting some of the words out because it's obviously so painful. They bring it back a little bit in the second season of Cobra Kai, but we'll get there later on. But this scene is fantastic. I love the funeral scene where Sato and Miyagi are standing together. It's a little foreshadowing. You kind of know that Sato eventually is going to come back to leave the dark side, because obviously the way they set things up, Chosen is the real villain. They do that from the very beginning, which I still think is overdone. But up till this point, and I'll say this about all of it, it's all, what's that old word they used to word? Hokum? Do you know that word? Hokum?
Yeah, it's kind of like nonsense. A spin of hokey, Of hokey.
It's all that, but these guys sell the hell out of it. And so at this point in the movie, we are invested. Even with all the criticisms, we want to see where this is going. And to see the tables turn a little bit and Daniel taking care of Miyagi a little bit is a great new idea that we've yet to see. Except briefly in the first one when Miyagi's drunk and passes out on his anniversary.
For me, you were mentioning Ralph Macchio. I think his best scene is the prison scene in Dirty Work.
Wait.
No.
Beer League. He's brilliant in Beer League.
Yes. Well, Groo, before we get to the plot, at this point, Miyagi shows Daniel the secret to his family karate, which is actually a percussion instrument, a handheld drum that illustrates the jumping technique. I love it. Block and defense karate.
Hey, at least you know what? At least they admit that it's kind of stupid, because what does Chosen call it? He calls it a baby rattle.
Well, it's funny because I once asked my dad for self-defense tips, and he took out a saxophone.
Thank you.
I was like, what does it have to do? What does this have to do with self-defense? He's like, nothing, but I'm trying to recreate the Clarence Clemens part in
in Jungle Land.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I can totally picture Mitch Moody doing that too.
Yeah,
my guy didn't have any nunchucks, but I got you this oboe.
Yeah, right. I got you this flute. Sometime later, Daniel he accidentally exposes corruption in Chosen's grocery business. Chosen accuses Daniel of insulting his honor and begins to harass him. So was that with the weights? Did he not improperly weight the measurement of the food?
Well, they were fake weights or something, because he broke it apart. But my question about this is, why does the nephew of the guy who has all the money in Okinawa have to sell groceries on the street?
Well, no, I think that he was part. Sato controls everything in this town, so he's paying for groceries, but he's trying to skim all the local villages.
That's another problem I have with this, because if Sato, the thing about Sato is his issue was always with Miyagi. They're trying to make him out to be this really bad guy, and the way Miyagi talks about him, he wasn't a bad guy. He just hated Miyagi for what he did to him. But now you're coming back, and he's now all these years later, and all of a sudden he's like the emperor of the town. It doesn't really fit the narrative, and and that'll come into play later on in the movie. But it just look, again, it's they're plot devices. They're plot devices that, to people like us, to movie snobs like us, they're ridiculous, but we still love them because, in the end, if you really look at it, it is a cartoon. It's a live-action cartoon.
Well, on that note, let's move over to the iconic bar scene in which Daniel breaks 6 pieces of frozen ice. Chosen loses the bet and is accused of dishonoring the family. And actually, I wrote that scene because, you mentioned plot devices. It's coming from a million miles away. But that scene with the music, it kind of ramps up the tension. It's such a well-done scene.
It is. It's a fun scene. It's ridiculous, but it's fun. I like it. I love how Sato chirps his nephew. Do not embarrass uncle. Like, I really enjoy that. I enjoy, like before anything, Sato kind of always seems to want to do what's proper. Even though he's played out to be this terrible guy, he's like, we lost the bet, pay up.
Pay your bet.
Yeah, pay your bet. So, and the scene is fun. You got a bunch of U.S. Marines in there, which speaks to the, like the military base. Could Daniel not slice through six plates of ice? No way. But he's got that Miyagi magic in his hands, so why not? And it makes for funny stuff. Like Miyagi's like, "Thank you, Sato. Pleasure doing business with you." It's all great cartoonish stuff that I wouldn't want to change.
You don't think that Ralph Macchio, he gained about 10 or 15 pounds for the sequel? I mean, he's ripped in this movie.
He's ripped. He's a 98 pound. He's still the 98-pound weakling.
I understand. That was a joke. Go with it. Try to work around my material too. All right. So, all right. Well, Groo, after confronting each other in the bar and in the dance club, the feud quickly comes to a head when Chosen and his cronies attack Daniel and vandalize Miyagi's family property. The group is quickly defeated and runs off after Miyagi arrives. Miyagi and Daniel plan to return to Los Angeles before the situation gets any worse. However, Sato shows up with the bulldozers and threatens to destroy the village if Miyagi refuses to fight. Forced to comply, Miyagi gives in on one condition, that Sato signs the village land title permanently over to the villagers regardless of the fight's outcome. Sato begrudgingly agrees after Miyagi describes the condition as a small price to pay for his honor.
I love that line.
So we have the setup for the big Miyagi-Sato square off, and we don't get the payoff because on the day of the fight, a typhoon arrives. A typhoon.
Oh wait, no, that's when he was Tugboat.
Right. Villagers take cover at a nearby shelter, but Sato is trapped when his family dojo is leveled by the storm. Miyagi and good old Daniel rush over to rescue him.
Good old Daniel.
In my favorite scene in the movie, you want to talk about ridiculous, Miyagi miraculously breaks the large piece of wet wood trapping Sato with one glancing strike. After carrying Sato to safety, Daniel attempts, of course we gotta have this like Disney level scene where Daniel attempts to rescue a child on top of a bell tower. How the hell she got there? I have no effing idea.
She drew the short straw when they were giving out jobs that day.
Right. Sato orders his nephew, Chosen, to help, but he refuses. So Sato rushes to assist Daniel himself. And I wrote, was this scene Daniel's bar mitzvah? Like, Daniel saves the girl, and now he's a man in everyone's eyes. And, of course, Sato disowns the nephew for refusing to assist. A lot to digest. Even Moody will say a little bit ridiculous as well. Groo, the thoughts on the non-fight, the typhoon, Sato, Miyagi, and Chosen refusing to help.
Well, there's that great scene where Miyagi goes to visit Sato to try to talk some sense into him, where he's chopping that very same piece of wood. as practice, and he's like, what has happened to you? That's a great scene between those two guys. I really do like that scene. It's very real, very, they're talking about, he's like, we were kids, and he's like, you were responsible for your own actions. Like, I like that stuff. That's good writing to me. And then you have like the ceremonies, like the tea ceremonies where, Miyagi's falling in love with Yukie again, which even that doesn't make sense. They've been in town for like 10 hours. And then Daniel is hooking up with Kumiko.
The heart wants what the heart wants.
Yeah. And then you get the glory of love montage when they're running along the rocks and the ocean and everything.
Yeah. By the way, she wins. She totally wins.
You cheated. You cheated.
I know.
We were sitting there. I'll bet you we were both sitting there watching it in our own respective places, both like this, like, oh, it's so cute.
Yeah, well, first of all, he runs like in jeans, like with a cinched belt and a tight, like full, like a long
95.
shirt.
It's 95 degrees there, and he's like dressed for a bar mitzvah, like you said.
She's running in like traditional Japanese garb, and somehow beats him. He's running like 1/4 speed. He's like, you beat me.
Yeah, you cheated. And then he's like, he's got that he takes the cheesiest line in the movie and Machio sells it. She's like, would I love America? He's like, yeah, you would. Would America love me? Well, I know one part of it already does. Oh, the heartstrings. And then, I am a man who, you could roll the credits right there. Who needs to fight? Right. We got it. I can see the director going, cut, print. That's a wrap, folks. We got it. But, look, again, cheese dripping with more cheese. But Machio, Marita, they all sell it. Tamla Tomita sells it. She's terrific, It's all it's no more or less nonsensical than everything else. You knew you weren't going to, you knew from the preview that you weren't getting the fight with Sato and Miyagi, that the fight was going to be with Chosen and Daniel. They practically set it up at the airport, with the handshake, we know that.
Yes.
So, yes, the storm is of course ridiculous, but a necessary plot device. You got to have something that brings Sato back to the good side and keeps Chosen on the bad side. That does it. Could they have done better? Of course, but they needed something that accomplished two things. Did that and was exciting with, pulsating music and like, are they going to die? Are they going to, whatever. So it works on that level. As silly as it is, like you said, with the girl in the bell tower, and Sato actually, when he's helping Daniel, did you notice? He's literally smiling as he's helping him. They're in this fucking typhoon, and they're about to get destroyed, and he's like, oh, Miyagi, let me go! And they're like, he's carrying the girl, and Daniel's like, thanks, man! And he's like, yeah, he's like got this big smile on his face, like, come on, buddy, let's go. Let's save the town.
Let's go drink some beers. Yeah, let's go drink some beers. Like,
but it's great, you know why? Because, let me ask you this.
You think Daniel might be like, why were you such a dick to me?
Well, he was never really a dick to him. Chosen was. But Sato never really.
True. All right.
Sato and Miyagi saved their wrath for each other. They never really picked on, the younger guys. But did you? It's hard for me to remember this deep. But as I'm watching the movie, these movies stand the test of time when you look at them and you root for things to happen that are going to happen anyway, but you still root for them to happen. For example, from the very beginning, you're always rooting for Sato to see the light. You don't want Chosen to see the light because you want to see Chosen get his ass kicked. But there's something about the way the guy plays Sato where you really, he's the Iceman. He's the one you want to see come to a realization that this isn't how it has to be. This isn't how it has to be. And the movie delivers on that premise. Do you remember feeling that way?
Well, I agree. Well, I don't remember feeling like when I watched the movie as a young kid, but I would say to you, I agree with you. A movie, in a sense, hits its mark when you know it's coming. It's totally predictable, but it comes anyway, and it's satisfying to the viewer, and it's emotionally pleasing. I mean, the first thing I thought of was literally every Rocky movie. You know it's coming. You see it from a million miles away, for the most part, the endings, and you're satisfied. A couple of things that you mentioned. Number one, Kumiko dripping with cheese. I would like to see that. She is damn beautiful. Number two, Ralph Macchio can't run for shit. He's the worst. He would not run in his track team. And number three,
yeah, he didn't play. He's not an athlete. He didn't run very well playing soccer in the first one, and he definitely can't play softball in beer league.
No, and then I think if you notice,
I still love him, but
the girl stuck on the bell tower, and I think like a lightning strike breaks the ladder, the wooden step ladder, perfectly in half, just enough for Macchio to climb up and get the girl. But just, I don't know. I just remember being like, oh, that's so ridiculous.
I think that was a young Jennifer Aniston. No.
Perhaps. She went on to do Nutrisystem commercials for Howard. All right. So the next morning, Groo, the villagers are rebuilding. Sato returns with his bulldozers, only this time to help rebuild the village. Sato hands the land title to the village and asks for Miyagi's forgiveness. I think he actually says, I beg you, please, for your forgiveness.
Yes, he says exactly
Which,
that.
of course, Miyagi, ever the wise old sage man, accepts.
No, he doesn't. Well, he accepts it, but but remember what he says?
I think he says something like,
this pissed me off. He said
something like, don't even worry about it.
No, he said nothing to forgive. Bullshit.
Okay.
Bullshit! It was 30 years. He had to leave his home. He had to leave his country, leave his family. Nothing to forgive. Fuck you. Kiss my ass. But wait, it's the movies. So, okay, old friend. Come on. Give me that. He should have been like, all right,
well,
I got you.
You've said it before. I mean, the plot lines in this movie are fairly ridiculous.
Yeah. But that one bothered me. That one still bothers me. Let him sweat it out a little bit.
He did say, I know what you're saying, but he was like very like, oh, no worries.
No, forget the last 30 years. Just gone.
Yeah, life is life. We all good. Okay?
L'chaim.
Yeah. It's a crazy life. This sake's strong.
Yeah.
Daniel and Kumiko approach Sato about hosting the upcoming Oban festival in the ceremonial castle, to which he graciously agrees and invites Daniel to join the celebration. As we get to the final...
Wait, you forgot about that. You forgot about the cool handshake.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
No, come on. You gotta throw that in there.
I don't have the whole... What do you want me to do? Go through every single plot point in the movie?
But it's not a plot point. It's a little thing that's just... that stands out. When they shake hands, they do the thing, whatever they, like one way, this way, I don't know. Sato's trying to be cool now.
I thought they shook hands really hard and you see their veins pulsing like Predator.
No, that's Chosen and Daniel.
Oh, okay. When Kumiko performs the very erotic dance at the Oban festival, a vengeful Chosen, listen to this, Sandy. You want to talk about ridiculous? Zip lines into the presentation.
There just happens to be a zip line in there.
Yeah, destroys all the beautiful Asian balloons.
This is our castle and ropes course.
Right. Takes Kumiko hostage at knife point and demands to fight Daniel to the death.
I guess there's no police presence in Okinawa at this time.
And I love my favorite line from Miyagi to set up the seriousness of this final battle. He says to Daniel-san, this is not tournament. This is for real. You're like thanks, Miyagi.
Yeah.
Thanks for your support. Now you're going to throw me in the den of wolves, so to speak.
Now, if you're Daniel's mom, Like, after this whole thing, you hear about it. Are you letting him hang out with Miyagi ever again?
Great point. You're like,
this kid's now going to be fighting for his life in 13,000 miles away from home. And,
well, probably, they'll show, like, he'll be like, Mom, yeah, hi, can I go visit Mr. Miyagi? And she'll give like a Vince McMahon, like, no chance in hell you can visit that son of a bitch. Well, he gave me a nice car. Yeah, well, you only put your life in danger, 15 different times.
He fixed my bike.
Right. And he alleviated my torn ACL, my shoulder, Anyway, so of course, to demonstrate the seriousness, Daniel crosses the drawbridge and dumps the wooden bridge. So there's now no one could assist him. And after an intense fight, Daniel is eventually overwhelmed by Chosen. And of course, in a very saintly scene, Miyagi, Sato, and the crowd respond by using the handheld drums. They brought to the celebration, inspiring Daniel-san to do more. Seemingly confused, Chosen closes in for the kill, but Daniel is able to deflect Chosen's attacks, lands counterattacks using the drum technique. Daniel grabs the defeated and vanquished Chosen and threatens to end Chosen's life by saying, "Live or die, man." Chosen chooses die with the stream of blood going down his cheek. But remembering the way Miyagi handled Kreese earlier, Daniel now honks on Chosen's nose and drops him to the ground. Daniel embraces Kamiko while the villagers cheers him on. And then actually, Daniel says, "I just want to say, if yous can change, and eyes can change,
everybody's can change.
We can all change." Miyagi looks on proudly. So Groo, again, I actually wrote, feels like a very Rocky type ending. You may agree or disagree, but the final scene, lay it out for us.
Well, I'll tell you this. I've said the same thing about most of this movie, how it's such nonsense, over-the-top nonsense, yet I still love it, and I still wouldn't change it, really. A couple things maybe here and there. This, and I really do enjoy the fight between the two.
Well, give me your final thoughts on the final scene, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Okay.
I have some thoughts.
Well, I am. Okay, this is, because the fight is exciting. I'll give him that. It's nice and bloody, like the first one wasn't. This one is. Okay. It's nice and violent. Good, better karate. Better karate than we've seen. Chosen is terrific. But this part here is the one part that pisses me off. And that's with everybody playing with the drum thing. If it was just Miyagi and maybe he gives one to Sato, so it's just them two doing it, maybe that would work. But having everybody in that place all of a sudden pull out their thing and start doing it, and that's what inspires Daniel after getting his head kicked in for the entire fight. All of a sudden now he comes back and wins. Because of that, that's the one thing that I really wish, I dread. I don't like, every time I see it, I'm like, I feel dirty.
Actually, in a deleted scene, Miyagi went, "Shigale! Shigale!" It's very funny you mentioned that, and this is why I love you so much. I did write in my notes, feels very Rocky-like, but I wrote, part of my notes is, it's funny, the karate is better here. Mm-hmm. The acting is better here. Pat Morita is terrific here. I'm going to give you, I'll sum up I don't have a ton of notes on my summation of the film, and then I'll throw it to you to wrap up Kid 2. Pat Morita is terrific here. I think he does a better job acting here. The depth of his performance as Mr. Miyagi, it's deeper. It's even more nuanced here in Karate Kid 2. The karate is better here. The acting is better here. Now, here's where my criticism, and you mentioned it a little bit, and I won't say it's a note-for-note rehash, but it's close to me, and this is where it felt a little Escape from L.A. Chosen is Johnny. Kamiko is Ali. Mm-hmm. Sato is a little bit, there's Kreese. I mean, besides taking it to another locale, which you did note in your earlier criticism, but you kind of didn't bring it to full depth. I do feel the plot is strikingly, in some points, very similar to Kid 2. All right, you don't have a karate tournament here. You have a street fight, similar to Rocky 5. And I'm not trying to say that in any, because I know Rocky 5 was after this movie. So am I onto something here, or do you feel like it's just, it's not a note? I'm not saying it's note for note, but it's pretty darn close.
I think you are, to a point, you're correct, but I don't, that doesn't bother me as much. I don't see, I don't see the character lineups like you do. I never once look at Chosen and say, okay, that's the Johnny of Karate Kid 2. I never look at I just see it differently because of the different type of story they're telling. This is not a story about a kid getting picked on. This is a story about two friends who've bitten off a little more than they can chew. But there are two things.
What's the more ridiculous? What is Kid 2? Is Kid more grounded in realism, or is?
Oh yeah, by far, yes.
Okay.
There's very little about the first Karate Kid that if anything, that you look at and be like, all right, come on.
Don't see. I actually think Chosen and Johnny are strikingly similar, except at the very end, Chosen really doesn't have any redemptive moment where Johnny does. I'll give you that. You don't think that they're both good-looking, striking guys? They're just bullies, and I don't know. I felt like
I think their motivations are different. I think Chosen is just
fine. Sure, I'll give you that.
Because I think it's established in, at least by the end of the Karate Kid one, with the sweep the leg part, that Johnny really has been poorly influenced by his teacher. And that's been the sort of catalyst for his behavior. In this one, I guess you could say Chosen's been influenced by Sato, but Chosen really is a bad guy. But there is a tad little redemptive moment there when he chooses death over dishonor. Like, I kind of gained a tad tiny little... But there are two things about this whole thing that bother me. One I've told you is that everybody has the drum thing. And the second part is that if you look at the first one, Daniel's character goes from point A to point B. He grows throughout the movie. Is the Daniel in the beginning of Karate Kid 2 any different at the end of Karate Kid 2? Miyagi's different. Miyagi sees that not everything is black and white, that you have to, adapt to certain situations. He has a journey. That's why I say this is Miyagi's story. Daniel seems to be just along for the ride, and then, at the end all the marbles are put in his hands. I don't see much character development in Daniel's story in this movie, because it's really not about him. This is all Miyagi's fight, even if Daniel is a participant. That's what bothers me about this, and he's not the cocky kind of punky kid from the first one who's got a chip on his shoulder. This is where he becomes kind of like a goody two shoes, and he's just overwhelmed with goodness and can never do you know what I mean?
Daniel LaRusso character?
Yeah. Like that, that's my problem with this. It's not Machio's fault. He gives it his all and he's great as always. But, the writing as far as the character of the Karate Kid, it's not about him. Like, unless I'm missing something.
Okay. I think there's something there to be said. I would only say in hearing that comment, perhaps he learns to move on from a little bit of loss. Well, I don't know, losing your high school girlfriend of a year is a big loss.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to learn.
Yeah, you move on by hooking up with the first chick you see when you get off the plane in Okinawa.
I let you speak. I'm just throwing some food out there for conversation. Okay. And now I forgot my second point in hearing.
Well, you were saying he's moving on from being dumped by the girl.
And would you not say in this movie, and it's nuanced, it's not right out there for anyone to see, In this movie, he guides Miyagi at certain points.
Yes.
He's almost like a source of wisdom or reflection, whereas in the first movie, Miyagi simply showing him the ropes and giving him all the advice.
Yeah, but that's
and the scene where he, like you said, that scene where he tells Miyagi about his dad's death and moving on. It's a pretty good, like you said, best scene in the movie.
Yes.
Pretty strong scene.
Yes, but then they drop it. Then afterwards they go right back into, then I think, in fact I know, the very next scene they're practicing karate again, and they do that drum thing, and they do the thing where Daniel does something stupid and the thing the sharp thing comes down, like it's back to hijinks, I think they could have run with that idea a little bit more. Like even if they were to have the Sato Miyagi fight almost happen and have Daniel like sort of being Miyagi's inspiration in a way. I don't know. I feel like that would have given more depth to the Daniel character in this story. If they did that, and then maybe the storm comes and the same stuff happens, and then the thing with Chosen, then it becomes about, then you're switching gears, and now it's focusing on Daniel again. But it never gets to that point until literally you're at the fight.
Andrew Gruthius is a critic, based on 4 stars. What are you going to give Karate Kid 2 today? I don't want to hear about when you were 9, watched it yesterday on a 4-star basis. Give us your star rating and give us a couple of lines in your review.
Okay. I'm going to give Karate Kid 2 2.5 out of 4. It is a workable, fun, enjoyable sequel, but that's all it is. It's a sequel. It doesn't really break any new ground as far as movie making, storytelling. The storytelling is weak. The performances are great. And in the end, with the nonsense, it all adds up to almost a good movie. Not quite.
Yeah. I told Groo a couple of lines and he just went off on a mini paragraph. I'm only kidding. I would give it also, I would say 2.5 stars. Derivative of the first one. I think it's a little bit more derivative perhaps than Andrew feels, but it's well done derivativeness. Groo, want to take
Wait a minute. Wait, hold on. Wait. You said
we'll go back to the
I ask you a question. You said I think it's more derivative than you do? Or was it the opposite?
I think it's a little bit more derivative.
Derivative means different, right?
No, I think it
or repetitive.
I think it. I feel like I felt like it was a little bit more a rehashing of.
Okay, so more repetitive then.
Yeah,
derivative I think is like different.
No,
like
Billy Joel
away.
has been considered derivative. His songs, Ray Charles. The Traffic, he's I don't quite see it as an original production.
I give it a little more. Yes, I give it a little more credit for having the guts to get out of its comfort zone. Unfortunately, they didn't do as much with it as they could have.
Any thoughts to the rumor that Kid 3 they were going to go to China to square off against Godzilla?
I think that was an actual thing.
Oh,
there was I think there was a comic book. There is a comic. There was a comic book. There was also a Karate Kid television cartoon, and there were stories like that. I don't know if that exact one, but they were. I think they were getting into like supernatural kind of stuff, adventurous stuff. I would pay to see that. I'd pay to see that.
No, you wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't. All right.
Do you want to take a shot at commercially total gross domestically in the United States for Kid 2?
Yes, let me take a shot. I'm going to say that Karate Kid 2 Part 2 made.
What was its U.S. gross?
I'm going to say $107 million.
Damn, you're good, my friend. 115, a little bit over 115 million domestically in the U.S. Made over 20 million its opening week. Ended its run totaling over 115 million domestically in the United States. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, and that's a huge hit back then. I would say
115 million. That's a good job, huh?
Yeah, I think the top movie that year was Top Gun, and that didn't break 200 million. So anything at that was a time when if anything hit 100 million, it was a blockbuster. And this definitely was. And I don't think that was more than the original Karate Kid made, but it's definitely a big hit. And rightly so.
Andrew,
rightly so.
Well, we got Andrew's critical response and myself of Kid 2. What was the overall critical response for Karate Kid 2? Rotten Tomatoes, the aggregate film site, has an approval rating of 45% based on 31 reviews, with an average score, Andy, of 5.02 out of 10. The site's critics' consensus reads, like countless sequels, The Karate Kid Part 2 tries upping the stakes without straying too far from the formula and suffers diminishing returns as well. Another aggregate site, Metacritic, the film has a weighted score of 55 out of 100 based on 9 critics indicating mixed or average reviews. Audience polled by CinemaScore gave the average score of an A- on an A+ to F scale. Very interesting. Mm-hmm. The Los Angeles Times Groo gave the film a positive review, praising Pat Morita's performance as Miyagi and called the actor the heart of the movie. Ace movie critic and film historian Leonard Maltin agreed with the strength of the performance, but called the film purposeless, corny in the extreme. All that's missing from the climax is hounds and ice flows, but made palatable by winning performances. And finally, Roger Ebert gave the movie thumbs up, while Gene Siskel did not. Andy, hearing some of the basic critic reviews of Kid 2, your own thoughts in mind? Any comments?
Yeah, I remember when it came out, it was pretty well panned. I remember our hometown newspaper, Newsday, gave it 1 star. I used to check out, like, whenever a movie I was excited about was coming out, I would always run to get the Newsday review first, like in the morning, to see what they thought of it. Obviously this was way before internet, so you had no idea if these were going to be good or not. And then seeing that 1 star, I was like, oh no, I was so bummed. But we still went to see it that night. In fact, I had to convince my dad and my dad's friend were taking me and my friend we were supposed to see Karate Kid 2. But I think there was another movie that came out on that same day or the previous week that they wanted to take us to instead, because they didn't want to take us to a movie that was supposed to suck, and that was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But we insisted that they take us to Karate Kid 2, even though it was supposed to be so god-awful. And I remember when we walked out of there, we were like, told you it was amazing, and I remember my dad was like, yeah, you did. And then he turns to his friend, he's like, that fucking sucked. like that's what he was like.
You made the right choice. I would see Kid 2 over Ferris Bueller any day of the week.
Oh, I love Ferris Bueller, but
I understand.
Yeah, Karate Kid, but Karate Kid is, look,
I'm 13, 12 years old. Yeah. I'm seeing Karate Kid 2 way before Ferris Bueller.
You're damn right. But if I wonder if ourselves today, if we were adults back then, what would we have thought of this movie? We probably would have hated it.
I don't think I would have hated it. I think it would have been, yes, hokey, hokum. Some of these things you say, plot, paint by numbers. I mean, it's coming. I think actually listening to some of the critical pieces on my notes, I felt like my overall criticisms were fairly justified. It's coming. I felt like, and Andy is, I think, a slight disagreement, but, I think one of them wrote it's, Rotten Tomatoes doesn't stray too far from the formula. You're getting the same Karate Kid formula per se, just in another locale. And, I understand that some of the nuances around the edges have been changed a little bit,
right.
But it's pure Karate Kid formula that worked in the first one. And, I think probably if I enjoyed watching it, and,
so did I.
Yeah, You know what's coming, you get it, and you're still pretty pleased with it, despite, as Andy said, many of the ridiculous plot points and ridiculousness of the movie.
Yeah, in fact, that ridiculousness, most of it, I've identified the stuff that really I can't get past, but most of it, these days, after seeing it so many times over the last 30-something years, it adds to its charm. It makes it more enjoyable to watch, like laughing at some of these things, and in a good-hearted way. Because because you still love these people. You love Daniel. You love Miyagi. You even love Sato. You like these characters are so fantastic. Like, that's where the writing is superb. Like, these characters are...
I'm different. I'm different. When I'm vested, I want seriousness. I want realism. And again, I love... No reflection of Karate Kid 2. I'm just saying, I think that's why I'm a little bit different. We talked about the escape movies.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me
buy into... Well, let me just finish my...
Okay, all right.
I'll gladly throw it to you.
Okay.
You want me to buy into action, adventure, science fiction? Ridiculousness, treat it seriously, I'll probably be there. Some of these things that are, and I understand a Kid too, they treat it seriously, but, I don't know, I gotta buy into it. I'm not gonna enjoy a movie more, let's say, because, it's such a, the wink and the nod stuff, comedies, no problem. But I want the movies that I'm gonna invest in, I want it serious. That makes sense.
It does make sense. And, well, because I don't know how I was reminded of this. Maybe because it's the same principle in a way. But I thought of the Police Academy movies when I was watching this. Wait a minute. Hear me out. Okay?
Go ahead.
We knew then and we know now that the Police Academy movies are bad movies. But we love them anyway. Because of these characters. We love Mahoney. We love Jones. We love Tackleberry. We love Hightower. We love Hooks. We love Mauser. We love Harris. Like these,
great.
so they're the ones who are sort of like taking us by the hand and say, look, we know this sucks, but we're going to have a good time anyway. Like that's what I was thinking when I was watching this. You don't buy the comparison.
No, because number one, I don't put Police Academy anywhere near Karate Kid in terms of lore and American nostalgia.
Neither do I.
I don't have any proof of it. I'm just saying, you just don't read the kind of things. Obviously, Cobra Kai has heightened the awareness, but even beyond that, Police Academy is a comedy. So I'm there for laughs and yucks, and it's a slapstick comedy. So I'm not really. The storyline.
Well, what I meant was it could apply to any movie, I think, where if the actors do their job and the characters are fleshed out, sometimes you can deal with the ridiculousness of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said Police Academy is just a more watered down version than Stripes.
Sure,
it's the same story, but just I don't believe it's done. Anyway.
No, I agree with that. That's my point. But I still enjoy them because of the characters, and that's why I would say 75%, if not more, of my enjoyment of Karate Kid 2 is because of the characters. And maybe 25% plot.
I agree with that. I just want those characters that I love to be held in reverence with the material. And here, I agree with you. Some of these storylines and pieces are kind of a little ridiculous and not well fleshed out. And it does affect, I think, my overall critical review of the movie, but my enjoyment level was still pretty high for this movie.
Yeah. My critical view is 2.5, but I enjoyed it on a 4-star level. And there is a difference.
In terms of accolades, Andy, 1987 ASCAP, American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, awards
Bill Conti
won top box office film for original music, which was released on United Artists Records. It also received another Academy Award nomination for Best Original Song for Glory Hole of Love.
The funny part about that is that if Glory of Love came out today, not only would it not get an Oscar nomination, it would probably win a Razzie.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, probably Glory of Love would be like, it would be like a hip hop song by like Da Baby and,
yeah. And I don't even understand it. Like, what is the glory? Like, I am a man who will fight for your honor. I'll be the hero that you're dreaming of. We'll live together, knowing forever that we did it all for the glory of love. What the hell are they talking about?
I think they are. Oh my God. Let's get Peter Cetera. Hit him up on Instagram.
Well, actually, I do think that I do believe I did hear somewhere that this song was written for a different movie and used for this. In fact, I think it was written for Rocky IV. Yes, I heard that on the Rewatchables podcast. Do you know the Rewatchables?
Yes,
they did a Rocky IV one, and this song was supposed to be the closing credits for Rocky IV, but they decided to go a little more upbeat and went with the John Cafferty song, leaving this one available for Karate Kid Part 2. Little known fact.
Yeah, my favorite Rocky summation song is "That's the Measure of a Man."
I love that song. Don't piss on that one for me. I love that one.
Enough. Go watch Rewatchables, the Elton John "Measure of a Man" podcast. Well, Andy, before we wrap it up and take it out of here, shockingly enough, our next show will be the third installment of the Karate Kid franchise. It's
you
the
better
Karate
believe
Kid 3.
it.
Andy, I'll let you set the table on that one. It's been a long time since I've seen Kid 3. Don't get in too depth, but give us some thoughts on Karate Kid 3, our next podcast.
Well, if the first one was father to son, and the second one, if the first one was teacher to student, the second one was father to son, the third one is man to man. As Daniel prepares for the fight of his life. Forget that nonsense in Okinawa with the knives and the chains and the explosions and 13,000 miles away from home. No, this is right around the corner. But it's
by the way, isn't that a bit much that Chozen put a knife to?
It's beyond a bit much, but
wasn't he a guy of honor?
Yeah, but it was you know what? It sort of makes sense because if he didn't do that, then everybody would have bum rushed him. If he had if he didn't have the knife to her throat, Miyagi and Sato would have come out there and just started pummeling on him, wouldn't they have? Or, I would think.
How can you put a knife to Kamiki's throat?
Oh, that's Chosen's problem. Maybe he doesn't go that way, but that's his deal. And that's perfectly fine.
So you're saying, Kid 3, Daniel's all grown up and he's going mono.
Well, he's not so much grown up. He's grown out a little bit. He definitely does put on some weight on that flight home from, Okinawa. You'll see that when you watch it again. But no, Karate Kid 3 is back to Los Angeles where he finds a vengeful, old nemesis waiting to, pounce upon his return.
Don't we all?
Yeah, and actually, I'm looking forward to that one.
After in life, Andy, I find after we defeat one villain, there's just another one in the waiting.
Yes, exactly. That's how it goes. And why should the Karate Kid franchise be any different? But I'm actually I really truly enjoyed. I hadn't seen Karate Kid 2 in a while.
Me too.
I've probably seen Karate Kid 3 once or twice in the past year or two, but I truly, of course I have. Yeah.
If it's watched it last Wednesday.
If they're on, I'm watching them. I mean, it's that kind of same thing with Ghostbusters 2. As bad as that one is, I still watch it and I still love it to an extent.
That's your problem.
But it is my problem.
It's your fault.
But, I truly, really had a good time and enjoyed watching Karate Kid 2 from this critical perspective last night, and who knows, maybe I'll just decide, maybe because of that, I'll just watch Karate Kid 3 tonight, because I know I'll enjoy that. I really, because I enjoy these, I enjoy these characters. I'll follow them anywhere. I really will. And that's the literally, and you know, even into the next Karate Kid with that one. I mean, you know.
All right.
Okay. We'll slow down.
We don't need a whole exposition.
We'll slow down.
I got a bowel movement in the chamber. Come on. I got a life here. No, I have not seen Kid 3 in a long time. I'm looking forward to it as well. You know, Andy says he'll follow these characters anywhere. There is also Karate Kid X, Daniel Goes to Space.
I'm all in. I went with Jason. I'll go with Daniel.
Well, Andy, it has indeed been a pleasure discussing Karate Kid 2 with you, and why don't you take us out of here?
Well, yes, indeed. The pleasure has been all yours, as we like to say here at Nothing Worthwhile Incorporated. Next week, we'll be back with an all-new episode.
We're incorporated?
Yeah, I don't know. It just sounds all right. You know, maybe we'll go public.
Your dad filed those legal papers?
Yes. So now we're a public company. Our stock price is negative 75 cents a share. So get in while it's cheap. So next week,
splits.
Before it splits. So next week we will be going from Okinawa, taking the long 13-hour flight back to Los Angeles and the, what do they call it? The Valley, as it were, with Daniel and Mr. Miyagi to see what awaits, to see what mirth, merriment, and excitement awaits for them at home. And until then, until that time comes, please be safe, be happy, be humble. Enjoy, even if you're not enjoying. And with that, we say 1, 2, 3.
Whack, whack. Howard Stern's ass.